It's 10:15 in the morning, and you are tuned to Grecian Echoes here on WNTN, 1550 AM in Cambridge, Needham, and Boston. We're streaming at WNTN.com on this Monday, March 31st, 2025. It's Mondays with Meleti, and your host, Meleti Pouliopoulos. I have in the studio at this time attorney Harry Vlachos, who's the president of the Alpha Omega Council, and it's a huge responsibility. The Alpha Omega Council is going into it's in its 49th year, as I understand, and I want to say Kalimeta first. Hi, Harry.
Kalimeta Meleti, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming in. It's so nice to see you. Yeah.
Well, we were together a couple of months ago when you came to our January meeting at Alpha Omega Council, and you had gave us a wonderful lecture and presentation on all the work that you're doing to preserve Greek America as it stands right now. And it was your birthday, as I recall.
It was, and it was very nice. It was such a great reception. What impressed me was the questions and answer section afterwards, all the engagement. I didn't expect that.
People are very interested in the subject. I look at what we do at Alpha Omega promoting Hellenism. I break it down into two sections. One is the Hellenism represented by ancient Greece, 5th century Athens, Sophocles, Plato, and Aristotle, that part of Hellenism. And then here, there's Greek America and what the Greek American experience is and has been basically over 125, 130, 140 years here in the U.S. That's a history that we have to preserve. I know the universities are doing a good job of keeping 5th century Athens, that type of Hellenism, alive and well, although it's come under attack in some areas now as far as an area of study.
Yeah.
But we today really need to be mindful of the fact that we need to preserve the history of Greeks in America and what they've done, because we melt very easily into the melting pot.
Yeah, we do.
Very easily we do.
It's interesting. That's really loud. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But it's true, right? I think in our parents' generation, it was classical Greece. It was classical studies. I remember taking ancient Greek in college, and there was so much an emphasis on the classics.
Right.
And now here we are, and we're, let's say, more than 140 years in this country, and we have a beautiful history. And yet a lot of that hasn't been written. And so that was really the subject of the presentation to you folks, and as I say, the response was really encouraging.
Yeah, you have a wonderful collection of, I should call them artifacts and different items that people have donated and you've preserved. But it's a massive job, just receiving items, cataloging them, and then preserving them. It's a very big job, and I don't know if too many people that do what you do in trying to accomplish that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I think we're uniquely positioned, and I've been going at it for a long time. We have a fundraiser that's coming up that we can talk about in a little bit. I wanted to tell you that I was just down at the Hellenic Art Society in Worcester. I gave a presentation on Thursday night, and they stayed around for a good hour after the presentation, and the discussion was really wonderful. And it was the same sort of idea. We need to preserve this. And one fellow stood up, because I said, "Is anyone here from the AHEPA?" And a couple people raised their hand. And I played the AHEPA theme song that's been lost in history. The AHEPA actually have a theme song.
Really?
Yeah. It was a marching song. It was the AHEPA March, and it was recorded on a record. It was sheet music produced. It was put onto a piano roll. I mean, people remember the processional. And when you went to a Greek Independence Day parade and you saw the AHEPA, that song would be playing. And it had lyrics, right? But all that's been lost. So this fellow raised his hand and he said, we're having a hard time trying to attract younger people into the organization. And I said, well, what do you do how do you get them in? What are you doing as an organization? He had to stop and think. Well, we give out scholarships. Well, I know that, but so I think the organizations maybe have to recalibrate themselves a little bit because we're not only was our focus on classical Greece years ago, but we've changed now. We're not first generation immigrants. We're not saying, you need to be a patriotic American. We've done that. We're there, right?
Right, right. I mean, there are people walking around who are fourth generation
Right.
Greek Americans. Some of them have no idea who it was that came to America, or perhaps even the original name, or the village or town that their forebears came from.
Yeah.
All that is lost. I mean, it's a responsibility of each generation to pass that information on to the next. Let's face it.
Yeah.
You can also, go to ancestry.com and look things up. Like I've found the ships that my father came on and my mother's parents came on, and it's exciting to find out where they left, from what port they left, and where they landed. You could spend hours and hours sifting through that. Once you start on it, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, that generation is, in my mind, such a great generation because they built the institutions that we're standing on right now. They've put us into American history and have created a lot of history here, and they continued our culture, but that hasn't been documented. And so the question always comes up, are young people interested in this? And I just starting another intern, and they're very interested in this stuff. So we have to do something.
It depends on the person. Some, just want to melt into the melting pot of America, and some, grasp it and want to pursue it and find out more information. Hopefully, more of those people can be found to carry it on.
I hope so. I really do, Harry. I'd like to talk about what the Alpha Omega does this time of year, because I know traditionally there's been a number of events, including around Greek Independence Day, and there's a tradition now that's been established. And first, can we talk about the wreath ceremony and anything that may have changed from last year to next?
Well, in preparation for the marathon, we have what's called the Marathon Wreath Ceremony, which is going to be held on April 17th. That's Holy Thursday, so that it's a little complicated. But these are gold olive branch wreaths that are brought from Greece, and they are presented to the Boston Athletic Association for the winners, and they're presented by the consulate. Consul General Tegos will be presenting them, and along with the 26.2 Foundation. And it's a ceremony this year. It's going to be held at the a venue called The View, which is the top floor of the Prudential Building in Boston. It's not an open to the public event only because of limitations. It's not a very large venue. But that's going to be on April 17th, on the Thursday. The marathon, of course, is the following Monday. So those are events that we're heavily involved with. And beyond that, there's the parade. As we all know, you've been speaking about it. And the night before the parade, there is the dinner at the Quincy Marriott. And that's a very nice event. That's at a new location as well. And then we have on June 10th, we have Greek Heritage Night at Fenway Park. The Red Sox are going to play the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's Greek Heritage Night. There's a lot of activities. There's going to be dancing in the streets, Greek food, jerseys, hats, a raucous Greek-American crowd, I hope. And it's a wonderful event.
And it's a benefit, right?
It's a benefit. That event will enable us to raise some funds so that we can then redonate and put back out into the community. This time it's going to be to support the new field house construction up at the camp in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. So that's a big event coming up for us, and that's in June. And then our annual gala, we're looking at November 1st as the date this year. Which is not etched in bronze or stone at this point, but we're looking at that date, November 1st.
Who do we have chairing this year? Do we know?
Bill Galatis and Nick Ypsilantis will be
Great.
handling that.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. That's really good. You know, the Alpha Omega Council has given a lot of money and a lot of support to the St. Methodios Faith and Heritage Center. Can you talk about some of the things that have been done in recent years up there?
Well, the main project going on now is the building of the field house.
Yes.
It's a field house, which is a building that people can, during foul weather, can be indoors and engage in a lot of activities that they'd otherwise be doing outside. But we have a field house that's going to be a fantastic addition to the camp, and it's coming along nicely, and everybody's looking forward to seeing it completed.
That's good. Is the completion set for this year?
I'm not sure the exact completion date. I haven't checked on it right now, but it's well on its way towards that.
And was there a tennis court or something that was built a few years ago? I'm trying to remember. Was there something else was done?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
There was a field that we also
that's it.
sponsored. I think it was in 2012 or so. By Alpha Omega.
Yeah, you know, it's haven't been up there in years, but the Faith and Heritage Center has the camp, of course, is there, but also it's a retreat house, and groups do go up there. Churches, other groups go up, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful area, and we should all be very proud of what the metropolis of Boston, His Eminence Metropolitan Methodios, his vision now is realized for the youth, and so much has been done, and just remarkable things.
Yeah, it's a first-class operation up there. When you go up there and you go into the main building, and you see the cross. Yeah. It's a nice feeling. It takes a little while to get up there, but it's not that far, really.
Yeah.
Once you've done it once, it's the route, and it's a nice little trip.
Right. Now, the Alpha Omega Council, is it accepting new members? How does one become a member of Alpha Omega?
Well, we have a membership committee. In fact, Ted Dimitriadis is the chair of it.
Is he?
You're sitting in his seat.
Oh, I am.
And if a member feels someone will live up to the ideals that we strive to promote, they can. Ted and his membership committee would give them a membership application, and that would be reviewed by the membership committee, and they would make a recommendation to the full membership. But we do outreach, and we do look for new members.
Oh, good. And
we're looking for members who are committed to promote Hellenism and who have worked in the community, whether it's through religious organizations or through AHEPA or through any other avenues to express their deep interest in Greek and Hellenic affairs. Those are the kind of folks we would like. We do seek those individuals.
Now, the Alpha Omega Council does give money to various organizations. A lot of that's, not made as public as some things are. But what was public was the sponsorship of the Hellenic Chronicle digitization project a few years back. And I want to thank you and the Alpha Omega Council again for being courageous and standing up, because sometimes it takes that kind of leadership. And when other groups see that, then they'll stand up too. And that's exactly what happened with that project. I think you folks were the first to contribute.
Yeah, people don't realize how important the Hellenic Chronicle was to the Greek American community back in the 60s and 70s. It came out on Fridays. At least we got it in the mail on Fridays, and people raced to the mailbox to get that. And that basically told the story of what was going on during the previous week, not only locally, but nationally and internationally. And to have that digitized and preserved forever is really important. I think you have to be a certain age to understand how important and how valuable that newspaper was.
Yeah.
But obviously there are people now who never saw a printed copy of it in its printing days. But it was really important, and I thank you for all the work you did on that. You and Nancy Agris.
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, we're a good team, and it's been celebrated now so much, that project, and so many scholars have drawn off of it, and they continue to draw off of it. It seems we get inquiries all the time, and people are out there. There is the database online that they can search. It's not the final resting home, and we're still working on that part of it. But it's the first of many newspapers that need to be done. We still have newspapers that are not in any libraries at all. And at least they're not cataloged in any libraries. And I happen to have several up in my home that are over 100 years old. And that's why I started Greek Cultural Resources, because I think that our materials are at risk, you know. And theories can come and go, but if you lose your artifacts, you're in trouble. And I'm not sure how to get that point across to people, or how to build engagement in my work.
Right. These artifacts are unique. I mean, once they're destroyed, they're destroyed. You can't recompose them. So
Right.
they're gone.
Yeah.
I guess the only way you can do it is to just continue your outreach to every organization that you can present to, and explain to them what you do, and hopefully people in these organizations will recognize it as a priority and fund these efforts, because these things cost money. Storage, digitization, all these things take time and money.
Yeah. There's a bigger picture that we have to care for as a country, if I may. To say that we have not written our history, the organizations could play a role in that. And many of the organizations have not written their own histories. So what I said to the fellow from the AHEPA the other day is, why not have, a history project and collect your local chapter histories? It's so important. Why not start sponsoring young people to study this material, or sponsoring teachers to develop courses?
Yeah, true.
And celebrate our heritages. So the campaign of raising a glass to Greek American heritage, it's an event that we have set up in Manchester, New Hampshire. I don't know if I think you're probably just seeing the flyer for the first time, but we have posted it out and we've been announcing it. And it's an event on Saturday, May 17th at the St. George Greek Orthodox Cathedral. And we have a wine experience being offered by the AF Foundation. And it's interesting how this came about, by the way, because it was at the Alpha Omega Council where I was sitting at the dinner table next to Foti Stamos. And Foti, I guess, really appreciated the presentation. He pulled me aside and said, we want to interview you. My partner Ari and I have this podcast, Boston Greeks. And why don't you let us help you and we can do a fundraiser? And so, of course, I took him up on it. So here we are for
that was a wonderful connection.
Yeah.
Wonderful connection.
They're doing really good work. But again, the Bravos only go so far, and there is a bigger picture. And at this event, we're going to open the library at St. George. And I don't know if you know that I started a library project up in Manchester, New Hampshire. We're in our 5th year. It's totally funded by the community. We have a staff of volunteers. We have over 1,300 books that are cataloged online. We have a speaker series of bus trips. And we have other churches, not just from the metropolis, but from across the country calling.
So you have bus trips arranged by other parishes, bringing people up to...
No, it's us going out.
Oh, just going out. Okay.
We're totally open. Mm-hmm. We do have scholars. We have people from other churches that come. We're a lending library. We have a computer workspace area, presentation area. We do workshops. We have a story time session for the kids. And all of these programs have been developed in-house. And now they're being modeled. They're being replicated. People from other communities are asking, gee, how do we get this going? So there is a big interest out there, I think, and I guess all this work takes.
Yes, it's on my bucket list actually to go up to Manchester to see that. I mean, I've seen pictures, I've seen videos.
Oh, great!
And it's amazing how much you've accumulated into that small space. A whole history is in that room.
It's wonderful. And so if you make it to the event on the 17th, we're going to open the library for an hour. at the end of the event. So anyone that wants to go over and see the library and talk with some of the staff and can do that. And so,
That sounds like a great idea.
yeah.
I'm going to actually check that on my calendar.
Oh, that's
Saturday, May 17th,
Saturday,
Manchester.
May 17th
Okay.
would really like that. Yeah. And so I want to thank you for coming in today, Harry. Do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share on our Greek American heritage?
Well, it's just one final thought, I guess, is, the Greeks have been in Boston for over a century, well over a century, and there's no permanent evidence of the impact they have made in the city. There have been many big restaurants owned by Greeks in Boston. There's a great history there, and all these big restaurants have disappeared.
Yeah.
And there were all these big, gigantic corporate-owned, I call them hedge fund restaurants that have opened up, but
Yeah.
ones that were owned and managed by a larger-than-life individual who everybody in the city knew and all the politicians knew, et cetera. Those places have faded away. And there's no history of all those
Yeah.
businesses. And, we had tremendous political clout back 20, 30 years ago,
We did.
which seems to have dissipated because we don't have those wonderful people around anymore to represent us. Some, I wish there was some kind of a permanent piece of evidence of the Greek impact on the city of Boston as it grew during the 20th century.
Yeah.
That's something I'd like to see. Other than, I know in Rosendale there is a statue of Alexander the Great. I know that, but I mean more of the Greek American pioneers who came to the city.
Something here.
Yeah.
We had a guest in the studio, Kathy Kotaridis. She's the Director of Historic Preservation for the City of Boston. And she'd come in to talk about her work. She'd come from a nonprofit organization that she'd been in for almost 30 years. And then she went over as director for historic preservation. And a caller called in and said the same thing. He just said, look, we need to do something that documents us here and celebrates that. And so Kathy had come out on the call to endorse my work at Greek Cultural Resources. So in terms of endorsements and the people that have looked at the work, from scholars to professional people, they're all saying, and you yourself just said, we need to do this. What does it take? What do you think it takes to get people to donate, to get people engaged, to make this a priority? If we are proud of our heritage, why can't this be a priority?
Well, you're the point man in all this. I mean, you're the most knowledgeable person, and I guess to encourage your continuing work in this area is important. And maybe you need a team with you to help promote your work so that people understand it and prioritize it,
Yeah.
and are willing to fund it.
Yeah, funding is important. We've been at this a long time and we're losing our artifacts. People always say, well, tell me about your collection. What do you have? It's not just, first of all, it's not my collection. I consider myself a caretaker in this. And it is a very large collection, a very special collection. But there are other collections out there that don't have a place. They don't want to be put in an institution behind a wall without funding and not processed with no access. And so, we're in a very perilous situation because if we lose these artifacts, we're really in trouble. So that's why the campaign is Our Heritage Needs a Home. And I just wanted to close by talking about that. So we put together a flyer to raise a glass to Greek American heritage. It's pretty generic, all the facts. But then we put something a little bit more thought-provoking together. Greek American heritage in the basement, in the landfill, is it lost? Our heritage needs a home. And by that I'm saying, Harry, and I think you said it when we opened up the call, it's not an exercise of placing your things somewhere. Let's throw money at this building and throw our stuff there. But you have to have a program of access. You have to be in the community, have a relationship with the community. That's what we need to do. So our heritage needs a home. Our children need to understand this history. We need to start talking more. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you're absolutely right, and it's not an easy task, and perhaps there have been people before who have thought about this but never pursued it. But you're determined, I can tell, to pursue this. So the more you're doing, the better.
Yeah, I
I
appreciate it.
congratulate you for all your efforts.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you for coming in and talking with us this morning. It's very interesting. I appreciate so much all the work that Alpha Omega is doing, and a lot of that enablement, that money giving, and the guidance and the networking happens behind the scenes that people don't see. All the good work that your organization does.
Oh, thank you, Meleti, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Harry Vlachos, attorney Harry Vlachos, who's the president of the Alpha Omega Council, and he just added his voice to conserving Greek American heritage. It's saying that it should happen. We need to make that. It's so important that we need to write our history. Will you join us? Will you help us raise a glass to Greek American heritage? Please visit GreekBoxOffice.com and have a look at the program there that we have lined up, and join us. It's Mondays with Meleti, and your host, Meleti Pouliopoulos.